Hey everybody, it's Coach B. I wanted to hop on here and share something with you all today. I'm going to try to do a little bit of a series of things around selling. Been coaching and training, selling and developing salespeople for quite a few years. And, I've shared a lot of this knowledge in personal coaching sessions and group coaching sessions and training sessions. And I figured I'd get on here and start utilizing some of my expertise and resources to help people who are in a sales role and capacity looking to grow themselves. Sales is one of the greatest careers I think that anyone could be in, especially for a young person. If you've never really made any real money, you want an opportunity to make some real money at a very young age, sales is one way to do it. And if you've got any kind of a personality and willing to put the work in to develop the skills for yourself, you can really do great. If I sound a little sort of nasally, it is because I just got over kind of a little virus, I guess. It was a couple of days. My 14-year-old had it about 2 weeks ago, and I was taking her back and forth to school for a few more days than I normally do during the week. So I was around her in the car, closed up, and my 30-year-old daughter was like, "You should have let the windows down, Dad." I'm like, "I didn't think she was contagious like that." So I was exposed to her a lot more, and she was down for a couple of days, but she was still going to school. I saw her nose running, and I saw her, blowing her nose on a consistent basis. And I was like, and I take a lot of pride in keeping my immune system pretty high. So I started popping the vitamin C and started popping the stuff that my wife keeps in the house called Kick-Ass. It's this herbal kind of remedy, homeopathic remedy that she keeps. It tastes like sticks, mud, dirt, and chicken feet. I mean, it's the most disgusting thing in the world, but it works pretty well. So it's called Kick-Ass. If you want to go to the store and pick it up, you take some droplets of it and you put it in your water. It works pretty well. But apparently I started taking it a little bit too late, and I picked up the virus, and it lasted about 2 days, just the way that it did with her. But I'm still sort of working through some of the congestion. So please forgive me if I sound a little bit nasally. But I wanted to hop on here again and just share with you some things that I picked up. And I want to walk through kind of a sales process. If you're in sales, everyone subscribes to some sort of a sales process, and whether it's MEDDIC or whether it's spin or whether it's value selling, whatever it might be, they are all very similar. There are certain aspects of selling that need to be present in order to be successful. And so I want to start from the top to the bottom, or bottom to the top, whichever way you want to look at it, of how do you begin the sales process with someone? And there's multiple facets of selling. There's inbound selling, there's outbound selling, there's telephone selling, there's so many ways, enterprise selling, B2B, B2C, SMB, and there's so many ways to look at it. But at the end of the day, everybody's selling something. And it's one of the reasons why I got into sales. And I want to give my boy Robert Earl, a shout out, because he's the reason I got into sales. I was actually working, I had been doing restaurant management, got out of restaurant management, and he kept telling me, "Dude, you need to get into sales. You can make a lot of money in sales." He was selling cars at the time. In fact, the guy still sells cars. So he's apparently making a good living, and he's been doing it for 25 years or 30 years or so, telling our age here. But he's made a good living at it, takes care of his family, and has been very successful. He finally convinced me after numerous conversations about getting in sales, and I got into it. And so I started my sales career working for a small company that was a small business consulting firm. And it was called Walt Davis and Associates or something like that. But basically this entrepreneur, a buddy of mine, was working there, and we were basically tasked to go out and hunt for accounts for small businesses who needed to get additional funding and finances to further grow their businesses. We helped them find office spaces to lease. We helped them find and source furniture, lease places where they could actually lease office furniture and equipment, computers, printers, and all those sorts of things, copiers that they need to run offices. And this is when everybody was back in the office. There's no COVID. There's no virtual working from home kind of stuff. Everybody was in the office, so you needed to have an office space. So it was pretty cool to get involved with that. And I did that for about a year. It was really, really hard. And I was like, man, I don't know if this is for me, bro. And he kept telling me to hang in there, encouraged me to hang in there. And then after I did that for about a year, I got an opportunity to put my resume out on the market, and I got a job with AT&T Wireless. And that was my first experience of doing true B2B sales from a corporate perspective. And from that point, I fell in love with it, got into real estate, and then the rest of my career is history. So if you want to visit my LinkedIn, feel free to do that. And you can see not my full work history, but a lot of the things that I've been involved with over the years in my career in sales. So like I said, most sales organizations subscribe to some sort of a sales process. And most sales processes, if not all, begin with one of the most important things that you need to have in place to have a successful sales interaction with a customer is you need to have rapport. Now, there's maybe different schools of thought about how you establish rapport, right? I want to go through, I'm a value selling certified facilitator, and I do tend to prefer the value selling framework primarily because I love Julie Thomas, the president and CEO of value selling, Chad, a guy who trained me, and Rick, another guy that trained me as I was coming through and getting the facilitator certification. But the main thing is that that framework taught me the value of probing questions. And for those of you who are not in a sales type of role and don't have any interest in being in sales, or maybe you're considering it, probing questions are closed-ended questions. These are questions that result in a yes or no answer. And these are very directional questions when you consider it. And I never thought about it like that because I was always trained to always ask open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are questions that give the customer or the person who's responding a lot of space to answer, and they go in a bunch of different directions. These are questions that begin with who, what, where, when, why, and how, typically, right? And so it just opens up this broad surface for them to really say whatever they want to say. When you're asking yes or no questions, you're looking to guide them or have them go in a certain direction, which actually informs you on how you want to ask the next question, what that next question to follow up with that question might be. Both questions are extremely valuable, but like I said, I'd always been trained to use open-ended questions the most because you're going to get more information, which is true. Asking open-ended questions certainly yields you the most amount of information, but sometimes there's specific information that you need, right? So that's where probing questions come into play. So in the value selling framework, this is when I began to realize, and this is pretty far in my career, the value of closed-ended probing type questions. And also the other thing that I love about that framework is that, and I'm not saying that this doesn't apply in Medic and Spin and some of these other sales frameworks that are out there, is the value-led aspect of value selling. Most companies that I've been a part of were all product-led and product-based. You always are pushing your capabilities and pushing your products and services and how great they are. And again, there's a time and a place for that. However, really understanding value, and I talked about this in one of the previous videos that I did, it not value from your perspective and what you think the customer might find is valuable, but what you're able to uncover they think is valuable. Because we, as a salesperson, you have things that you love about your product, right? And you want to push those things and you want to really share those things and expound on it and demonstrate it, and because you're so excited about it. However, it may not be as exciting for the customer as it is for you because they may have something else more specific that they want to target. So you need to get on their agenda and make sure that you're discussing what's important for them. Okay, so let's back it up a little bit. So before you begin that conversation, it's really important for people to know who you are. And in the value selling framework, what we teach is the importance of having a credibility introduction. Now, one of the things that goes a long way in being in sales is being likable. If people like you, they'll tend to do business with you. The likability only goes to a certain extent. At some point, you're going to have to show that you actually have some experience and some expertise in being able to solve problems for them and being able to help them achieve their goals and objectives, whatever those might be. So being able to uncover what those are and then having the knowledge and the skill to be able to guide them to help solve those problems. But being likable sort of opens the door for you, right? No matter who you're talking to, what level you're talking at, if you're a likable person, and some people stonewall you, right? If you're in sales and you've been in sales for any time, sometimes you have gatekeepers, and sometimes the gatekeepers can be the people that are answering the phones. They can be the people in the first discovery call with you. They could be the executive that you're talking to. People are blocking because they're expecting you to try to come sell something. So you have to sort of have a way to disarm people from judging you in a way and making the determination about who you are that might not even be accurate. So how do you disarm people? You do that with a credibility introduction and the ability to actually establish rapport with them, because after rapport comes trust. And when people trust you, they'll follow you. And that's the ultimate place you want to get with the customers, getting to where they trust you and they believe that you have their best interest at heart no matter what. And that's a process, like any relationship that you're getting into, right? You're not going to walk into the first day and someone's going to trust you if they don't really know you. So you got to give them a chance to know you. And that's where the credibility introduction comes into play. Now, here's what most people do in a credibility introduction is they talk about their professional experience. I've been with this company for X years. Here's my role and here's what I do. Here's my background. Here's where I came from, blah, 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 blah. And all that's great. It's fine. It's also something that should be a part of your credibility introduction. Also maybe something about what your company does and how you've helped other companies like theirs achieve similar goals that they may want to achieve. Pointing out some specific problems that you've solved for customers that are maybe in their industry or their vertical. Those are all great. However, how do you connect personally? And I find that people tend to not want to share things personally about themselves because they feel like it's unprofessional. They feel like it might take the relationship down the wrong path. What I found today, though, is that people truly appreciate genuineness and authenticity. And I worked for a global company prior, and there are cultural differences that people kind of get stuck on. They think that, well, it's not going to work here the way it works there. It's not going to work there the way it works here. At the end of the day, these people are all human, and we have the ability to disarm people based on the way we show up and how we communicate and how we connect with people. So rapport comes through connection. How do you connect with someone? Well, one of the ways you connect is by letting your guard down and letting them see who you truly are. You're a father, you're a mother, right? You're a daughter. You know what you do outside of work, whether you volunteer your time. What are the things that you're committed to? What are the things that really matter to you outside of work? Share something like that. Another way to help people disarm people is humor. It's a universal language, is getting people to laugh. Now you got to be careful and tactical about the kind of joke you share and make sure that it fits culturally and to the people that you're talking to and the area that you're in, maybe even the industry, because some industries find things funny that other industries don't. So you've got to do your research and know what to say that's going to be acceptable, and that's going to really help break the ice for you in those situations. So sharing something funny, but just sharing something personal about yourself. Hey, on the week, here's what I do professionally, but on the weekends, I love to surf. In fact, I love to go down to whatever, the closest beach that you might surf at. I go down there probably twice every other week. I go down there and I surf for 2 or 3 hours. I just absolutely love it. So what does that do when you share something personal about yourself? It's called the reciprocal effect. They'll typically be willing to share something more personal about them. Again, you're breaking down those walls, breaking down those barriers. So don't be afraid to share something about yourself that opens you up and allows you to be vulnerable, because as you're being vulnerable, you actually open up a window for them to test the waters with you, to put their toes out there and see if it's safe to be vulnerable with you. And that's where you want people to be. When people feel vulnerable and they know that you're willing to be vulnerable with them and share the deepest, not the deepest parts of yourself, but some things that you might not share. And also the other benefit is that you stand out. You're a little bit different. Think about every time you get on a sales call and everyone's typically talking about the same thing. Oh, how's the weather? What's it like now? Oh, I've been there before. It's one of my favorite places to go visit. Those are all typical types of conversations. They're not going to remember you. Remember, you're in a hyper competitive space. Most businesses, and you're in a sales organization and you're in a sales capacity, it's highly, highly competitive out there. So what can you do to stand out? What can you do to make them remember you over every other salesperson that they talk to? Because trust me, if they're talking to you about your product and services, they're going to pit you against other competition to see who has the best price. And when you haven't made the connection, and when you haven't talked about value, which we'll get into in a later conversation, you end up being in a price war. And they're just going to go with the cheapest. You commoditize what you actually sell. And you never want to be in a commoditized type situation to where they're just looking at it like, 2 packs of cheese. Oh, the same thing, cheeses, the cheddar cheese here, cheddar cheese there. And they're both $4.99, or maybe one's $4.99, one's $4.79. They're just going to go with the lower price. That is not where you want to be when it comes to selling, especially not in a value-led conversation. Building rapport, building trust is key. So having a credibility introduction, what does that look like? Well, again, I mentioned it earlier, sharing things about your experience, why you're at the company that you are at right now, what you love about it, what you enjoy about working with customers like them. Forrester did a report a few years ago that talked about the 3 main things that senior leaders and executives are looking for in a salesperson. And number 1 is that you know something about their business. They want to know that you know something about what they do, how they make money, how they operate, what's important for them, right? Their industry. Number 2, they want to know that you understand the problems that their industry may be dealing with, that you have a sense of some of the challenges that they face and how those things impact their business. And the third thing that they want to see is that you not only understand their problems and you have a sense of what those are, but you also have the expertise, the knowledge, and the skill to help solve those problems so that they can go out and achieve their goals. So those are just a few ideas and ways that you can actually break down the barriers that people naturally have up for salespeople. Because when you get on a sales call, the first thing they're thinking, and they're judging you from day one, right? I mean, we're all judging. Everybody in this planet is constantly judging people. It's how we make decisions about where to go left or whether to go right. And that's okay. Nothing wrong with judging people. But they're judging you, and they already are thinking that you're just here to sell me something. And if they sense that you have commission on your breath, commission breath, as we call it in the sales space, if they sense that and pick up that all you care about is the commission and you don't really care about their problems and helping them solve what's important for them, they're going to turn off from you. And it's going to be really hard to come back from that. The old saying goes, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. I have an idea about that. I think you could actually come back from failing from a bad first impression, but it's a long climb upward. So knowing what to say to disarm people and to get them to trust you is key. So once you do that and you unlock that door with people, opens up a whole new space for you to communicate and connect with them on a different level. So there you go. Building rapport, really getting established a space and a pathway towards trust is what you're really wanting to build there. And that's all I got to share with you today. Thanks for listening in. I appreciate it. It's been Coach B. Go out there and be legendary. We'll see you soon.